everybody. I'm Megan Scott from Joy of Cooking, and today we're going to talk about rhubarb shrub. Not that kind of shrub, the drinking kind of shrub. It's kind of like a drinking vinegar, if you're not familiar. So it's something that you can make and keep in your fridge, and then add sparkling water, or you could add sparkling wine, or you could work it into a cocktail. It's just a really versatile and really easy way to use one of the first fruits of the season, rhubarb. And it is in the Joy of Cooking. This is our kitchen copy, so you can see no dust jacket. It's already kind of beat up. But it is on page 16 of the 2019 edition if you want to make it, but we'll talk through the whole process here, so you don't even need the recipe. So let's talk about rhubarb for a second. Rhubarb is not a fruit, but we sort of talk about it like it is a fruit just because of how it's prepared. It's usually prepared in sweet applications. You can make savory things with it. It's really great with savory foods, like making a rhubarb mostarda that you serve with a pork roast or something. But usually we put it in jams, we put it in pies. But it is not a fruit. But it is a beautiful, vegetable. I guess it's a vegetable. Doesn't really matter. It's super tart, super pretty. It's one of the first things that comes out in spring that you can buy at the farmer's market that kind of has a fruit-like appeal to it. And it is at the Portland Farmer's Market right now. And so I always make sure to grab a bunch when it first comes in season, because it's just exciting to actually see something that has bright colors at the market. And rhubarb is interesting to work with because it is actually, as you've probably heard, the leaves are actually poisonous. And the reason they're poisonous is because they contain really high concentrations of oxalic acid. Oxalic acid is in lots of foods. It's in spinach. But what makes it poisonous in rhubarb is just that it's a really high concentration. So you do not eat the leaves, but that's fine because they don't look super tasty anyway. They probably don't taste very good. So you're going to cut off the leaves. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So the first thing we're going to do is, to make this shrub, is we're going to make a simple syrup. And simple syrup is really just 1 part sugar to 1 part water. And so today I'm going to do 1 cup of sugar and a cup of water. And I'm going to get our camera person, John, to put that on the stove for me.
My pleasure.
And basically all you're going to do is put that over medium heat, stir it a little bit to make sure that the sugar dissolves. Yeah, go ahead and turn it on. Make sure the sugar dissolves. And while we wait for that to come to a boil, we will prepare our rhubarb. Let me move this out of the way. So to prepare the rhubarb for making a shrub, really all you need to do is trim it. So you'll cut off the top and the bottom part. And I'm just going to kind of cut it crosswise into like 1/2-inch pieces, but you don't have to be super picky about the size. And you can cut multiple stalks at a time, getting rid of those leaves. And you're gonna, for this batch, for this recipe, you're gonna use about 2 cups of chopped rhubarb. And you can make this recipe with pretty much any kind of fruit. I've made it with strawberries, with plums, really, really versatile, and it's a super seasonal recipe that you can make with whatever is in the market. And you can also find, rhubarb can vary a lot in appearance. You might find this rhubarb is really beautiful and pink, but you might find rhubarb that is completely green. And that has nothing to do with ripeness or really even flavor. It's really about the variety of rhubarb that you find. And green rhubarb will work just fine for this. You're not going to get the same vibrant pink color in the syrup as with the pink rhubarb, but it will work totally fine. So really use what you can find. And we're going for 2 cups here. that's about perfect. So I'll just compost these guys, or put them behind me. Now, while we're waiting for that, actually, let's just pause for a second while we wait for that syrup to come to a... Okay, so our syrup has come to a boil and all the sugar is dissolved. All I'm gonna do is put the rhubarb in a bowl. And you could use, like, I think a canning jar, like a quart jar would be perfect for this too, depending on what you have. And then I'm just gonna pour that syrup over the rhubarb. And I'll let it cool to room temperature and then refrigerate that overnight, cover it and refrigerate it. It does need to steep overnight. And so the next step, I have some that I've already steeped. And what you want to do with that rhubarb after it's sat is to strain it. So you're going to strain out all the pieces of rhubarb. So you just have this rhubarb infused syrup left. I really like to strain it into a big measuring cup because I'll show you in the next step, it'll be really handy to know exactly how much syrup you have. So you just use any kind of strainer, strain the rhubarb. And I think I'm actually going to save this rhubarb. You don't necessarily want to throw it away. It's still got a lot of life left in it. So I'm probably going to either roast it or I might make some kind of a compote or something to put on yogurt. But there's still some really good flavor in there. And you can see how beautiful, like this beautiful colored syrup that you get. You won't get that if you use green rhubarb, but it'll still taste really good. And so now you're going to kind of look at the level in your measuring cup, and it looks like I have 1.5 cups. So you want to add half as much vinegar as you have syrup. So let's talk about the vinegar piece of this for a second. I'm going to use this white wine vinegar, and don't be scared, it's got a vinegar mother in there, but that's good. So you're going to use half as much vinegar as you have syrup. You can use different kinds of vinegar. The only vinegar I tend not to use is white vinegar because it can be a little bit one-dimensional and it's really sharp. I like the way that this has just a little bit more complexity of flavor. You could use a champagne vinegar, you could use apple cider vinegar. Depending on the fruit that you're using in the shrub, you might decide to play with what kind of vinegar you use. I don't know if I would use all balsamic vinegar because I feel like balsamic can really overwhelm the flavors of fruit. But you might use like 1 part balsamic and then like 2 parts white wine or something if you want to play with that too. So I've got 1.5 cups of syrup. That means I'm going to use 3/4 cup of vinegar and just add that right to it. Glug.
The mother's really...
Yeah, the mother is like...
It's gyrating.
It's a jellyfish. And that is a shrub. That is pretty much all there is to it. You definitely need to keep this refrigerated. You can do all kinds of fun things with the flavoring of this. So for example, I think that rhubarb goes really well with ginger. So you might slice up some ginger coins and add that to your, as you heat up your simple syrup, you might add that to your simple syrup. You could add a vanilla bean that's been split. You could add some orange peel. So you can really flavor it how you want. You could mix different fruits together. You could do a strawberry rhubarb shrub. That would be such a classic flavor pairing for a shrub. But yeah, then you just have this beautiful drinking vinegar that you can add to your cocktails or just drink it with some sparkling water or macerate some fresh fruit in it. Use it as a drizzle over ice cream. There's just a ton of stuff you can do with it. So thanks for watching and I hope you enjoy.